In the hardware inventory project, we'll again use custom data classes, this time with auto-implemented properties and of course constructors and methods. But in this project, we will actually encounter all four of the object-oriented pillars of encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. We'll also use a dictionary and some custom dialogues using multiple forms. We'll get a little bit of practice using list and creating instances of our custom classes in those lists, reading and writing text data, using LINQ to sort and query, and we'll add a menu bar. The focus of this project really is on the custom classes. And we have four custom classes we're going to create. Each one uses encapsulation in that there are methods in each class that keeps the inner workings of those methods hidden, but we can call them publicly. We're also going to use abstraction in that our main product class, our base class for the products in our store, is an abstract class. It has an abstract method called getInventoryDifference, which will be used to determine which items we might need to order. That base class of product contains 5 properties of SKU or stock keeping unit, the item name, the wholesaler code, the department, and the aisle where it's located. It has a constructor, passing it 4 strings and an integer, populate those 5 properties, and also a string method which will list the item in our list box. It is inherited by 2 different subclasses, product by unit and product by measure. And the reason I have 2 different classes there as our child classes is that some items are sold by unit, such as you buy 1 hammer or 1 package of cabinet hinges. Others are sold by measure. I buy so many feet of rope or of chain or so many yards of carpet. And how we're going to calculate that as far as our inventory will be different. But the product by unit has 3 properties and the product by measure has 4. They each have a constructor, which in turn calls the constructor of product, and they each have a method called writeRecordCSV that returns a string. That's an example of polymorphism. And of course, they have the abstract methods of getInventoryDifference that must be included, and so they must override that getInventoryDifference from the product class. So we see our encapsulation, our abstraction, our polymorphism, and our inheritance. Now there's another class of wholesaler, and that ties to the wholesaler code of the product. It has a one-to-many relationship in that one wholesaler may provide many different products. We can look up the wholesaler using that wholesaler code. In the bin debug Windows folder of my project, I added 2 text files. One is hardwaretab.txt. That's going to contain all the products for our inventory, and the wholesaler.txt is also a text file that contains all the wholesaler contact information. The hardware text file is tab delimited, and I created it in Excel. Actually, I created both of them in Excel, but I created this in Excel, and it has fields for type, which is either a U or an M for unit or measure, the SKU number, the item name, the wholesaler code, the department that's in, and the aisle, and then the price and the inventory on hand, the number of sold. And then for those by measure, it also includes the type of measure, pound, foot, yard, so forth. I have about 30 products in here just for demonstration purposes. Obviously, in a real situation, we'd have hundreds, if not thousands, of products. The wholesaler text, I did something a little bit different as far as delimiting it. When I put this out to a text file, I wrote it with a formula placing a space, vertical bar space between each of the fields. And that is how we'll split it in our code. You can use any characters you like. I chose a space, vertical bar space, because I figured there would be no characters of a space bar space. Sometimes I'll use a section number or a paragraph symbol, even though most commonly we use tabs and commas to delimit our files. The fields of the wholesaler text file are the wholesaler's code, the company name, address, city, state, zip, their phone number, and the contact person at the company. Let's take a look at the project running. So when we open our application, it reads in the data files both for the wholesaler and the products and populates this list box with all the product names. Like I said, there's only 30 at this point for demonstration purposes, but in each of these we can click the product name in the list and see information about it as far as the item name, its SKU number, the department it's in, where it's located, and what the price is of each unit, or if it was a measure, what the price be of each measure. So we see how many units we have on hand, the item sold, and the wholesaler code. If I click on that wholesaler code, it brings up a custom dialog box as a second form that lists the code, the company, their address, phone number, and the contact person. This is a modal dialog, so I can't do anything back in the form until I actually close that dialog. Here's one that is done by measure. So basically showing the same information, but here rather than price each, it's price per foot. And it uses that measurement that we use in terms of that last field of the product data. See how many feet I have on hand, how many I've sold, and again, the wholesaler code, I can click on it. The roofing nails are sold by pound. This label here will change a little bit for units of measure based on the type of measurement we're using. On the menu, I have an exit menu. In department, I can view all the items by department. I want to see what's in the electrical department. There's electrical, garden, hardware, home, materials, plumbing. This hardware store also sells pet products and tools. And again, on each of these, I can click and see the information. This information is in a list of type product, which includes our two subclasses, product by unit and product by measure. Then there's also a management button here. So we're looking at the inventory on hand versus the items sold. Under management, I can choose purchase suggestions. And what that will do is it shows everything in the inventory where the items sold is more than the inventory or equal to the inventory. So if I click on one of these, such as light bulbs, we've sold 23 units, but we only have 11 on hand. Therefore, I may want to order more from the wholesaler. Same with toilet flappers. I've sold 7, I have 4 on hand. Gas water heaters. I've sold 2, but I have 2 on hand. But it might be time to order another one. So that's what that brings up. It uses a LINQ expression to do that. And then also under management, there's the view wholesale line. So here I can enter a wholesale code. So I'm going to do HASU as the default. And I see all the products that we purchase from HASU, which is the Harris Supply Company. If I do a different one, NAPS is Nancy's Pet Supply, and I see that we get 3 dog beds from her and the items in our dog biscuit bar. The items in the dog biscuit bar are sold by pound. The dog beds are sold by unit. And then there's a help button, simply brings up a little dialog box about this project. And one thing I forgot to show was on the department. Well, we have the different departments in here. We also have an all departments, which is the cumulative list. That is the project in a nutshell. I'll walk you through the graphical user interface for both the main form and the dialog form. And then I'm going to suggest you try duplicating this, but in the next video, I will show you my classes. And then in the third video, I'll show you the code for the form. I set the size of my form to 780 by 600 and gave it a text of Helena's hardware store -inventory. Over on the left-hand side is a picture box containing an image. And I make that image available in the Canvas course site for you. And it is the Helena Hardware 100 by 500. Notice I have 2 different versions there. I replaced one with the other in shortening my form. I have a label called LBL Query, my list box, LST Products, and then these are labels, LBL Item, LBL SKU, LBL Department or DEPT, LBL Aisle, LBL Price, LBL Inventory, LBL Sold, and LBL Wholesaler Code. And then I put another little just non-named label here. It says click the wholesaler code to see their details. For the menu, we have a file menu. With exit, I did a ampersand F for file and ampersand X for exit. Department, all departments, which is the A, electrical E, garden G, hardware H, home O, materials M, plumbing U, pets P, and tools T. For the management menu, I have purchase suggestions with the P having the ampersand, and then view wholesale lines with the ampersand in front of the W for wholesale. And then finally the help ampersand H and about ampersand A. That's the Form 1 interface. Now I also added a second form, which I just kept as the default name of Form 2. And here I set the text of the form to Wholesaler Supply Company. Now I want to make sure this comes up in a location I want to specify. So set the startup position to manual. My form size is 447 by 195. I usually like to work in multiples of fives. I might change that to 445 to 195 or make it 200. And I set the background color to an orange. It has a label of LBL WH code, LBL company. This is a label that will have two lines called LBL address and then LBL contact. On the form, I also got rid of the minimize box and the maximize box, set those both to false. That's the interface. I would start with duplicating the interface and then see if you can code it, but come back in the next video, I'll show you the classes, and then in the third video, I will show you the code of these two forms. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.